There is increasingly a disconnect between the governed and the government. And that's, I think, the crux and the thrust of our discussion today.
The members of the panel took turns to share their ideas on how the states got into the situation where they were no longer viable.
We have incompetent leadership. We have to admit it is our problem. The quality of the leadership is low. And we have to accept that they're incompetent. If a guy runs a state where he has not paid salary for 6 months and run around all over the place answering his excellency, he's incompetent. Period. There's no two ways about it. 60 to 70% of what we question today about corruption is actually civil service and the civil service. Without them, there won't be. Everything that I found wrong while I was in office was the civil service. For example, in cost in schools, we looked at our school system, saw the amount of money we were spending. It was huge. And it's still happening in most states today. But we're not getting any results. So what we did was to go to the school, deal with the teachers, deal with the students. I go to ask the students, what do you want? Oh, we want this, we want this. Principal, what do you want? And everything. Okay, we're going to do it. We will give you the money direct. Fine, when we wrote World Bank, they were to do a project in Anambra State. They want to do something. And I said to them, unless the money is going to go from the bank direct to school. They said, no. I said, no. If it's not, don't bring it into the government. Because by the time he leaves us to the school, something is going to short. So I want you to go direct to them, whatever. So I think the costing, so what I think is there's need to improve our procurement system where it is going to be. There's so many things you won't believe. Let me say something like that. Even headed paper. The first time I started, the headed paper, which I was buying in my office, 750 naira, they gave me a bill of 15,000. I said, headed paper. They said, oh, you just started, you need a new headed paper with your name on it. I said, okay. You know, he said, so you can't bring it like, say it used to be 18, that they've lowered it. So I said, okay, no problem. So when they left, I collected the sample of what they gave me, gave to my printer, and told him, if you can print this thing and bring it next week. By the time they came back with it, I gave it to them and said, okay, pay him 1,500 that I printed it. But so the procurement system is not acceptable. So if you can use it to shut it down and then do more.
Any state that does not have, any governor rather, that does not have, before he was elected, not at the point he was elected, and at least be thinking about it 2 years before he was elected, a 4-year plan to attract investment into that state, to unleash the power of the talents of that state, to generate funding for the necessary basic infrastructure that allows a state function as a viable entity, doesn't deserve to be in office. And the problem, of course, is that our electoral system does not allow for that type of planning. That's what you were saying. And so, as opposed to electing people who come to us and tell us, this is my vision for my state, this is how it's going to work, this is how it's going to fund it, and so on, okay? The guy has to get into an electoral system where, well, I mean, I guess two former governors can best describe how it works, but you have to navigate and go under and deal with the godfather or godmother and this and that and so on, and then eventually you pass through and so on. Now, this is such a dampener on the development opportunity. But when you get this back allocation, 20 billion or whatever it is, right, and you come to the state and all you've done is basically, right, create conditions where other states consume it, okay, to the benefit of their own environments. What have you done? What type of development is there? If every state is borrowing, I mean, I looked at the
debt figures of states between 2013 and 2015. With about 6 exceptions, the debt of every state has grown by over 70%. And some states, a particular state, its debt grew by over 800% in 2 years. Now that is entirely unsustainable. The states are finished. How do we get a mechanism for governing their fiscal responsibility?
Based on what we have looked at so far, there are a few things that we have seen in Lagos State that we feel that some other states in Nigeria can actually emulate. In the area of revenue and in the area of expenses, with respect to revenue, Lagos State has tried to widen the tax net. On the other side is that Lagos State has explored the area of PPP, public partnership, in the area of waste disposal, for instance, in the area of water supply, and even in the area of the construction of roads and things like that. So some of these things have helped the state that, in spite of the fact that the state has, at the moment, Lagos State has more than 70% of the revenue from IGR. But in spite of that, the state has been able to achieve much through the use of PPP.
The discussions were very interactive, and at the end, the panel members gave their suggestions for making the states work.
To have a properly articulated plan that is deliverable, very simple. You don't need to go into doing things that are sophisticated. You can't come and say you want to build an airport because it's expensive. Where are you going to get 20 billion to do that for most states when they can't even do the basic things?
There must be consequences for our actions. We must develop a system, right, where we are held accountable for the things that we get to do. And accountability cannot be an aberration. It cannot be a government comes in and wants to institute it. It must be a norm in our society.
We're not trying to create a mass movement. Our primary business is practicing law. This is what you might call, CSR, social responsibility. So we do it every year, and we hope that somehow it'll get propagated, not necessarily by us, but by others who might pick up the baton and continue the race.